Since I was 6, I've had terrifying nightmares, night after night. And while that might not seem so strange for a child with a wild imagination, these dreams were different. They were persistent. They always involved me trying to escape a humanoid entity, desperately seeking help, only to have everyone turn on me. I never had a good dream, not once. Things really began escalating after we moved into a new house. At first, everything seemed normal, but after about a year, I developed this intense fear of the bathroom that sat between my room and my brother's. I couldn't even go in there during the day. I didn't understand it, just that it felt wrong, evil. The nightmares never stopped. One night, I was sneaking cookies in the kitchen, and I decided to try going to that bathroom again. But as I turned the corner, I saw her. A woman, white, blonde, just standing down the hall, and then she was gone. Vanished in a blink. I ran back to my family, heart pounding, and from that point on, it wasn't just nightmares. I started seeing people, random people who weren't really there. They'd disappear the second I laid eyes on them. The night before my first major paranormal encounter, I was sitting in the hallway by the laundry room doing homework. I was too scared to be in my bedroom. That's when I began seeing people crouching around corners, watching me from the edges of my vision. Their faces, they started to look angry. Then, of course, the power went out. The very next night, I had a dream about witches. I woke up in terror and sprinted down the hallway to my parents' room. But as I reached the stairs, I stopped, and so did the tall humanoid figure that had followed me from the hallway. I could see it clearly under the stair lights. It just stood there and then it backed away. After that, things spiraled. One day I saw my brother walk into my room, say hi to me, only to realize seconds later he was never there. I had watched him walk in, but he hadn't. I know what I saw. Even when we moved to a new state, the experiences followed me. I started having sleep paralysis frequently. I'd get visions of the future, vivid lucid dreams, and strange events right after loved ones passed away. One incident still haunts me. One day I was paralyzed in my sleep. I saw a woman walk out of my brother's closet, her dress burned, her legs grey and decayed. Later that same day, I was sitting at the computer when I saw my brother walk out of his room, slowly turning to look at me with the most unnerving smile I've ever seen. Something out of a horror movie. Just staring. It chilled me to my core. But when I turned away, then looked back, he came out again. Same walk, same phone in his hand, but this time not even glancing my way. I hadn't moved. He hadn't walked past me before. That first one wasn't him. Then came 2020. People were turning to spirituality for comfort, and I was easily influenced. Given my past, it made sense. I started meditating, got some incense. It felt peaceful at first, until it wasn't. One night I came home after smoking and took my dog for a walk. That's when I started seeing strange people again. I hadn't seen them in years. It felt like the entity was warning me. It was back. That night, I woke up on my back and saw a pitch-black portal forming on my door. Right beside me was a crouched humanoid figure, silently watching. I was too high to be scared, so I studied it. It looked like a human-shaped black hole, pulsing with energy, atoms forming around it. I closed my eyes, opened them. It was still there. Sometimes I'd be lying in bed, scrolling my phone, and glance behind me, only to see it staring at me in the dark. 2 moments truly shook me. One night, I felt the right side of my bed sink down, like someone had sat next to me. I snapped awake, but no one was there. Another time, I felt something grab my toe while I was fully under the covers. I tried to recreate the sensation to convince myself it wasn't real, but I couldn't. I got up and tried plugging in my LED lights in the dark. Frustrated, I gave up and turned to get back in bed, and there it was, standing at the foot of my bed, the black figure. That was the last straw. I finally told my mom. She already knew something had happened to me when I was younger, and she didn't hesitate. We prayed. I put crystals around my room. I burned sage, but that only made things worse. I saw it following me down the stairs, angry. My dog would bark randomly at corners of my room in the middle of the night. One night, when I was home alone, she started growling non-stop toward the dark kitchen. I checked, nothing, but she wouldn't stop. Then came the exhaustion, days where I'd sleep for 72 hours. I had a vision of the entity walking through a door and leaving, while I lay nearly lifeless in bed. That's when I knew it was trying to take control of me. I developed anxiety, paranoia, dark thoughts that didn't feel like mine, and others started experiencing it too. Some friends told me about a shadowy figure appearing in their nightmares. My mom connected me with my deeply religious aunt, who taught me to pray in tongues. That's when the nightmares intensified. Same black figure, same attacks, but in my sleep, I started praying automatically. That protected me. One night I woke up from a nightmare and heard a faint, eerie whisper. From that point on, I was free. But it wasn't over. It moved on to my brother, the same one it used to imitate. He began having sleep paralysis. He told me he saw the black figure standing in the hallway by my door. My mom had her own attacks, sudden anxiety, overwhelming dread. But eventually, we all followed the same path. Prayer, cleansing, resistance, and finally it was gone. I've never been able to explain what happened that night, and I don't think I ever will. It was a cold night, one of those moments where you can feel the stillness in the air. I was just a kid, visiting my grandparents on their old farm, far outside the city. The day had come to a close and we were saying our goodbyes, my parents, my grandparents, all of us standing there in the chill of the evening. And then, it happened. A strange green light appeared over the tree line. It wasn't like a normal light, it was unnatural, almost glowing, and it moved in our direction with no real urgency. But there was something about it, something that immediately made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. As it got closer, the light bathed us in an eerie, bright green glow. I watched as my parents and grandparents stopped talking, completely silent, and stood motionless. No one said a word. They just froze. I tried to pull at my mother's arm, calling out to her, but she didn't respond. Neither did anyone else. It was like they couldn't hear me. I looked up at the light in wonder, its color shifting, first to bright white and then to red. The light hovered above us, flashing in those strange colors, while I stood there, completely mesmerized. The air felt thick, heavy, and time seemed to slow down. And still my family stood there, frozen. Then, without warning, the light slowly began to retreat, fading back to green and drifting off into the distance. It wasn't fast, just slowly, as if it had no intention of hurrying, as if it knew no one could stop it. My grandparents turned without a word and walked back into the house. My parents, still silent, made their way to the car. Not a single word was spoken. They didn't even look at me when I got in the car, just drove away without a sound. I tried to get my mother's attention, asking what happened, but she wouldn't answer. The drive home was in complete silence, and no matter how many times I tried to talk to them, they just ignored me. When we finally got home, it was like everything had been erased from their minds. They walked inside, stretching and yawning, blinking like they had just woken up from a deep sleep, completely confused, like they'd forgotten the last few hours. I asked them over and over what the lights in the sky were, but they denied ever seeing anything. They told me I was just imagining things, but I know what I saw, and to this day, I don't think I'll ever forget it. This was just one of many strange things that happened at my grandparents' farm, and I'm starting to wonder if it'll be the last. Some houses give you a warm feeling the moment you step in, but some hold something else entirely, and you don't realize it until it's too late. This happened back in 2012 when I was just a kid. We had moved into a new house, me, my mom, dad, and my little brother. He was only 3 at the time and just starting to walk. He's autistic, with speech delays and social challenges, but he was happy there. We both were. The house was spacious, and it had a front lawn where neighborhood kids would gather to play every afternoon. My mom would sit outside with other women from the area, chatting and keeping an eye on us. It felt safe. The only thing odd was that our house was right behind a hospital. Across the narrow road in front of our lawn, there was a tall brick wall. And behind that wall stood an old, abandoned building. Overgrown with weeds and trees, it looked like something frozen in time. Locals said it used to treat TB patients before vaccines were common. Even after treatments improved, the terminally ill were still sent there to live out their final days. Eventually it was shut down, but it was never torn down, just left to rot along with all the memories inside. My parents warned us not to go near it, not because of ghosts, but because the place was filled with broken glass, rusty metal, and disease. We listened, but I think something from that place didn't care about wolves. One summer afternoon, while we were playing outside, I went into the kitchen for a glass of water. As I walked out, I passed by the bedroom my brother and I shared, and there, standing just behind my brother's bed frame, was a man. Skinny, pale, hollowed-out eyes, hair in complete disarray. He looked confused. Not threatening, just startled to see me, the same way I was frozen in shock seeing him. He didn't move, he didn't speak, and then my body kicked in. I screamed louder than I've ever screamed in my life and bolted outside. Neighbors came running. My mom was terrified. People searched every inch of the house, but there was no sign of anyone. My dad rushed home from work and checked everything. Nothing. Some neighbors told us to call the police, but we had no evidence. No broken locks, no footprints, nothing. Just a kid's scream and a vanished man. But I remember his face. Clearly. Even after all these years, that one image has never faded. After that day, my parents stepped up home security, but something still wasn't right. As winter came, my dad started working night shifts. To help me sleep better, my mom and brother shared the bed with me. But I'm a light sleeper, and that winter I kept waking up to the sound of someone opening our front gate. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching over the lawn, growing louder, closer, until they reached the front door. Then silence. No knock, no retreating steps, no sound of the gate closing, just a heavy, unnatural stillness. My mom and I heard it more than once, and we started noticing our plants trampled in the morning, as if someone had been walking through them in the night. But these things only happened when my dad wasn't home. Eventually he gave up night shifts, and after that, the footsteps stopped. 2 years later, a friend of mine was walking home from a party. She lived just 3 houses down from ours. As she passed by our gate, she noticed a man sitting on the wall across the road, facing the abandoned hospital wing. She assumed he was just a homeless man and kept walking, but something made her turn around at her front door. The man turned too, and that's when she recognized him. It was the old carpenter who had lived at the end of our street. The same man who had taken his own life just days earlier. He had been dead, everyone knew it, and even when alive, he was too weak to climb a wall like that. She called her parents, but when they came back outside, he was gone. The hospital staff searched the area. Nothing. My mom believed in spirits. She wasn't brave, but she was grounded in faith. She used to say, "Ghosts feed off fear. If you don't give it to them, they'll eventually leave." Maybe she was right, maybe not. But it gave us peace. We moved out in 2021, and still, after all these years, I can't stop thinking about the man behind the bed, the footsteps in the dark, the silence after. Some houses are just houses, but some, they remember you.
Thanks for watching. If this story sent chills down your spine, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more daily horror. Got a true paranormal experience or a creepy tale of your own? Send your story to shortshivers@gmail.com. It might just be featured in an upcoming video. Until next time, sleep tight.